Hi, this is Sean with Ohmmu Energy, and today we're going to show you how to do a 12-volt battery swap and upgrade on your Tesla Model S. This is going to apply to all Model S built April 2016 and later, which is distinguishable by the revised nose cone front end. All right, so with the 12-volt battery swap, what you need to do on these vehicles is you're going to have the frunk open, make sure the driver's side door is open, and then we're going to remove all of the trim and lining on the inside, and then you're going to see the 12-volt battery right there in front of you. It's very easy to get to on this version of Model S, which is great because the early Model S's were a real pain. So we're going to get down there, and then we'll detach things, and we'll put the new battery in, reattach, and then put everything back together. When you do a 12-volt battery swap on these, we highly recommend you move to a lithium-based battery. We sell them, ohmmu.com, and we've been doing it for a long time, and our batteries are way better than the factory battery. The factory battery is a lead-acid battery. It weighs a lot. It's old, kind of dumb technology. Our batteries are much lighter. They're really cool new technology, and they last way longer. So we highly recommend doing the swap for a number of reasons. Of course, the longevity is huge. Going from a battery that lasts maybe 2 to 3 years before it's spent to a battery that'll go 8 to 10 years easily before it's spent is awesome. It's far more convenient for you, it's more reliable for you, and it results in less money spent over time because you're not paying money to swap your battery all the time. 2, the weight. Weight's huge with an electric vehicle. It's all about efficiency. Every little bit of weight you can reduce in your vehicle increases your driving efficiency and optimizes your range to get the best and most out of it over the lifetime of the vehicle. So shedding a good 15 pounds out of your vehicle is always a good thing. The other really cool benefits are the battery voltage will operate and maintain a little higher while there's loads applied to it. The reason for that is that there's less voltage sag with a lithium-based chemistry versus a lead chemistry. With less voltage sag, you're going to especially feel that and hear that during amplified bass sound, because the voltage will operate slightly higher through that period of time and allow for a little bit more power availability to your amp so it can push that subwoofer a little harder. So that's a really neat feature. And then last, we believe that it's the most environmentally responsible thing to do to put in products that are high quality and last a very long time rather than think of things as very disposable. So we like to put these batteries in because it's a much better battery. It's going to last way longer and result in far less swaps, which is far less environmental damage caused through manufacturing and recycling. The lead acid industry for batteries is very dangerous. Lead is a very toxic substance. So anything we can do to minimize that and reduce the emissions at those factories is a wonderful thing to do. And so we highly recommend swapping out to lithium. And again, you can find us at ohmmu.com and get your battery from us. We'll get it to you as quick as we can, and we're here to help anytime. The tools you'll need for the 12-volt battery swap are going to be a 10-millimeter wrench and a 13-millimeter wrench. Sometimes you don't need the 13-millimeter. It depends on which month the vehicle was built. It tends to fluctuate. Usually you don't need the 13-millimeter, but in some cases you do. I use a cordless drill with a socket attachment on it. That makes this process go through much easier and more quickly. And so I recommend you having the same. For safety, let's make sure that whenever you're working with a 12-volt battery, you're wearing gloves, insulated gloves, and safety glasses. The reason for that is that the 12-volt battery that was in your vehicle is a lead-acid battery. And a lot of times with an older lead-acid battery, the battery could have cracked or started spewing out acid, and you may have an acid residue on the top and sides, and you could see the battery swelling, and it could be potentially dangerous, hazardous to your skin for sure, and potentially very hazardous to your eyes. So we want to make sure we protect those vital things. All right, let's get started with the 12-volt battery swap. First thing we'll do is power off the car after we open the frunk and the driver's side door. Inside of the vehicle to do the power off and to make sure the frunk is open. First, we'll open the frunk. Make sure you leave the driver's door open while you're doing this whole thing because we're going to have the car powered off. And if you open or close the door with the car totally powered off, you might lose your window calibration, and then that becomes another pain in the neck to deal with. So leave that open, and then we're going to power off by clicking on Safety and Security, then Power Off, and then confirm with power off. Now the vehicle is powered down, mostly just at the MCU and computers here. A lot of the other computers are still running. And we're going to make sure that we remove the high voltage interlock loop tag to bring all of those down as well while we do the battery swap. That'll make sure that everything resets. All right, we'll disassemble the front. It's the same process whether you're doing a 12-volt battery swap or the HEPA filter swap out. So it's a great time to do both. We're going to remove the trim lining, starting with this top one. You just lift up and everything will unclick. Do one side and then the other. And then set that down to the side. Then you'll do your side trim panels. Same thing, they're all just clicked in. You lift up. You don't need to remove these rubber stoppers. You can leave those in place when you take it out. Same on this side. Front trim piece, same process. Just lift up and it'll unclick. Try not to flex too much on one side because the center tends to hold and you might bend it at the middle, so start over on the other side after you get one side up. Then it'll pop right out. Next step, we're going to take this carpet liner out. And you just peel out from under and remove that way. After you've got the carpet liner loosened, you're going to unplug the light and the emergency release button from the front. And then lift that liner out and set it to the side. Now you're going to push the little wire harness that holds those two plugs. You're going to push it through the tub. Then we'll take off all these 10mm bolts, unpry these two plastic locks, and we'll be able to lift this out. A nice to have tool at this point, if you're doing it with a driver like this, is a flex attachment that you can put on to get these bottom two corner bolts. Once you have all of those bolts out, you can just leave them in the tub. It's a fine place for them to hang out while they're waiting. Then we're going to remove these two plastic clips at the front. All right, to remove these, you can use a flathead screwdriver and just pry them up. And they'll come out. At this point, we'll take out this tray in the back. There's two rubber hoses that hold it. You're just going to pull those downwards on the side. And there's another row of 3 clips that you'll take off at the back. Now this part will lift out. With a couple of clips that you loosen on the sides. Once you've got that out of the way, you can lift the tub out and set that to the side. Now you see your beautiful big HEPA filter. So remove that. Now that you've got the trunk out of the way, it's actually loose, and you just kind of shimmy it forward and lift it out. All right, this plastic air ducting just comes out, set to the side. Now you see your 12-volt battery. This one's got a lot of corrosion here on the terminal. And so what we're going to do now is actually disable the high voltage system, which is a really essential thing to do in any electric vehicle when it's easily accessible, but definitely in the Teslas because they are doing a lot all the time, even when the car is asleep. They have a lot of power flowing. So disabling the high voltage system will cut the power off from the DC to DC converter. That's really critical, especially when doing a 12-volt swap, because the 12-volt power could be coming from this battery, or it could be coming from the high voltage battery, and you won't know until you see an arc or a spark while you're doing stuff up here. So we disable the high voltage system by this particular vehicle. We're going to disconnect this tag in the upper strut area. There's just a little harness. You'll unplug it and detach it, and that'll prevent the high voltage system from coming online. And then that way you know when these are disconnected from this battery, the 12-volt system is totally powered down. All right, we'll disconnect this by reaching in, press down on the lock on the side of the harness, and pull up to separate the two parts. Once that's disconnected, if the high voltage system was on at that point, you would have heard a click, which would have been the contactor opening. But in this case, the power was already off and the high voltage system was off at the time, so you didn't hear a click. But we're going to make sure that that's out so that we can safely remove the 12-volt battery and operate in that area. All right, we're going to remove the battery by removing this bracket that ties it down and the lugs that hold on to the battery. To remove the lugs, you can either loosen up the 10mm bolts and take the lug off of its adapter, or you can remove this 8mm bolt and leave the lug attached to its adapter and then screw that into the new battery. Either way works fine, but you do need to transfer these lugs to your new battery. This cover comes up when you unclick from the two sides. We're always going to remove the negative lug first. The reason for that is that the negative side of this vehicle and this battery is grounded to the chassis, which means that all of the exposed metal is connected to this. So if we were to remove the positive first and leave this connected, then we would have the potential for a short between the positive terminal and the negative terminal through some unknown channel, some unknown pathway that you weren't aware of. So we always take the negative off first to make sure that the chances for that are mitigated. Once that's off, then we can take this bracket off. You'll need a long socket to do this top bolt here. All right, you can take that bracket off the top and then loosen our positive lug. Once that's loosened, detach it. Now the vehicle is totally powered down. There's no power from the 12-volt side. There's no power from the high voltage side. This is essential when you're doing these swaps to have some time spent at this point, because it allows the vehicle to go into a totally deep reset and all of the computers can reset and recalibrate to a new 12-volt battery. So we'll take this battery out. It's kind of heavy, so just be careful. Make sure you get both hands on it and lift it out. All right, let's do a quick weight comparison so you can see the difference. Here's the original lead acid battery, sitting around 27 pounds, 4 ounces. Now we'll check out the Ohmmu 12-volt battery, and it's lithium, 9 pounds, 10 ounces. So there you go, you're gonna save over 17 pounds by doing this swap in your car. All right, we just need an 8mm socket, and we're gonna swap those terminals over. If your Model S is a 2020 and later, then they changed the style of battery and it now has lugs that are built into the battery. So it has lead lugs sticking out of the top. In that case, you'll need to get a set of adapters, which we will provide you if you order it from us, your lithium battery. And then you'll just install the adapters provided. But if you have one of these earlier ones, then you just transfer the adapters over. This negative one's got a lot of corrosion on it, so we're going to have to knock it loose. Let's get something to tap it. So this terminal came out really corroded, so we're going to try to clean that up and then install it on the new battery. All right, we've cleaned up the terminal. Now we'll go ahead and reattach that negative side as well. Really important when working with a battery and the terminals like this and having metal tools is that terminals are always live and there's an electrical potential between the two, which is the voltage. So if your tool is touching one side while you're working on it and you accidentally hit the other terminal, you create a dead short. You're going to have some sparks and arcs and you won't be happy. You could, with the lead acid battery, could go into a meltdown kind of situation and get dangerous. With our batteries, we do have it internally protected, and so it'll disconnect itself internally, but then you'll have to wait before you reinstall it for the battery to reset itself, which could take some time, 5-10 minutes. So you don't want to have that happen. So with your insulated glove, always put a hand in between the tool and the other terminal. That will help block that from happening. And so it's a good practice to always use of course, insulated gloves, but also that you keep one in between, or if you're wrenching on something, you put that hand in between the two spots so that it protects the two terminals from hitting each other through the metal tool. Now we'll go ahead and put this battery in. All right, when we're reattaching the battery, we'll put the bracket on first. But the bracket will connect here, then that nut that goes there, and the bolt into there. When you're using a cordless drill like this, make sure you set the torque setting somewhere in the middle to the lower end. You don't need a ton of torque on these. You just want to get it nice and snug, and you don't want to break anything. Now that those are secured, we're going to attach the positive terminal only to the battery. We'll tighten that down. So that it doesn't rotate too much when you're sliding it. Then, as soon as you've got that connected, you want to put the cover on. Always a good idea whenever possible to have the cover in place, because that will keep you safe and protected from a potential short across those terminals when you're working with metal tools. Very critical though, now, before we connect this last negative terminal, we're going to first reconnect the high voltage interlock loop. So those just push together until you hear it click. So we'll just push these together and then you'll hear a click. Then you know it's solid. Pull back a little bit to make sure it's tight. You're good to go. Now we're going to make the last and final connection for powering up the vehicle. Because this is the last connection, what's going to happen when this metal, when this lug gets close to the terminal, is a little bit of current is going to start jumping across because the car is excited to get its energy back and wake everything back up. So You will want to try to line it up and push it on quickly. Doing it quickly will prevent much time being spent where the metal is barely touching, because barely touching metal with electrical potential creates an arc. And arcs can build up heat and look a little bit scary. So just kind of line it up and push it on, and you won't get any of that. And you'll hear things click, and you'll hear the car start to wake back up because now it's getting energy again from this battery. Now we'll tighten that terminal. Now you're pretty much done with the 12-volt battery swap. You just got to reassemble everything. Make sure that the car is alive again, and that if you had a 12-volt replacement warning alert, that it's cleared. If it hasn't cleared, then you probably didn't get the computers to fully reset, and you might need to detach the high voltage interlock loop and the battery again, and wait 5 to 10 minutes before you reconnect the high voltage interlock loop and then reconnect the battery. So reassembly. We're going to bring the black duct tube back in. It's going to sit right here. It just slides into place. And will sit there. To get it in place, you're just going to set it there. This tube will connect to the back register on the top there. And then the other tray, the tray is going to come in here with the 2 drain tubes. That's going to connect to the top line. Then we'll put the frunk in and we'll resecure everything. So here's the other tray. That will connect right here. Connects in the front. You'll hear it click in place. There's a couple of rubber tubes. Just push those to reconnect. Those allow water to run off and out, and should prevent mildew smells from forming when this tray gets wet and you're driving in wet weather. Now that that's in, we'll put the frunk in. With this part, make sure you guide this wire back through this hole before you secure everything. Otherwise, you won't be able to get to it and you'll have to take everything back out to get it. So that's in place. You take your 10mm bolts and line them all back up. You might have to lift the filter assembly up or push it down, depending, to line up the holes, because these back holes are actually all grabbing the filter assembly and not the body or anything like that of the car. So they are what holds the filter up. So once you get one side loosely put in, then you can go to the other side and do the same. I just get all of the bolts started slightly, and then come back in with the cordless drill and finish them all off. The only ones that are actually holding the tub in place are these on the side. They bolt into the frame rails. So these 2 here and those 2 on that side. Again, make sure you're on a low torque setting so you can zip those in place. Have one of these flex adapters, this is a good time you can use it to tighten those. Next, come with your black clips. We're going to put those along the back. There's 3 of them. Might be easier without gloves if you're wearing thick gloves. The way they work is you have the little insert pushed upwards. Make sure that's up, get it in place, and then click it down. And you have two more in the front. Now you can bring the carpet liner in. When you're putting the carpet liner in place, make sure you connect the light and the emergency release button. Then press the carpet down, lift up on the inner portion of the rubber edge to slide it underneath, and work your way all the way around. Now that you've got the carpet liner in place, you can put the trim back on. You have to put the front trim piece on first, then the two sides, then the trim piece across the top. They'll all just set in place, push down to snap down, and then they're secure. Make sure you get the rubber stopper or Frunk alignment adjuster up through that hole, then clip down. Then the top piece will clip in place. When making this last trim piece installation, make sure you take this orange tag and pull it so that it's visible when the trim's all in place. All right, that's it. You now have a brand new and upgraded lithium 12-volt battery partially powering your Tesla Model S. We appreciate your time today. Thanks for watching our video. We hope you learned something and we were able to help you with your vehicle. For support, please reach out to us. Anything you need, support@ohmmu.com is our email address. You can go see us at ohmmu.com. We've got a live chat available. If we're not immediately available, leave a message there and we'll get back to you when we can and address whatever you got going on. And we also have a page with FAQs, installation videos and manuals and other helpful information, and that's at ohmmu.com/support. We hope to hear from you. Thank you so much and enjoy your vehicle.